Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to have been asked to come and present Valirx this evening. It's a story that you have partially heard already this evening, but in a very different sector. Again, our disclaimer, much pared back. I discovered there's an awful lot of American stuff in there, so quick conversation with the lawyer yesterday. I cut it down to half a page. I still can't read it. What are we? Well, we're a clinical stage drug discovery life science company, but we're focused on innovative projects and products in cancer therapeutics and oncology diagnostics to support those therapeutics in general. We used to call this personalized medicine, but buzzwords change with time, as we all know, and the Journal of Personalized Medicine, which is an august peer-reviewed journal, which everyone has, of course, read, has just recently rebranded itself as Precision Medicine. I'm not sure it makes a standard bit of difference to anybody, but it's there. What are we? Well, we have a very clear, simple business model. In fact, it's a very classic biotech model. We are very simply a semi-virtual biotech company. We have quite a history now of screening and collecting various projects, which we do in a very rigorous method. We take them forward and assess their viability, develop them, and we sell them relatively early, having acquired them at a very early stage in their development. Basically, we get more bang for the buck than if we go later. We try and avoid doing late-stage clinicals because, as we've already heard this evening, they not only cost an enormous amount of money, they're quite risk-prone, and secondly, while doing it in something like a cellular therapy, it makes sense to go on because the regulatory environment encourages the return at that point. In a more traditional chemical-based industry, getting out earlier tends to give you a higher return for people like us, where we could not run a 20-center trial with 2,000 or 3,000 patients in each. You just think of the money that would cost to run. It requires the very biggest to make that happen. It should also be remembered that, in fact, it's not a new model at all. It's not even been within my lifetime, and well over 75%, I know it says it here, of new products that are coming to the market have originated in biotech companies around the world, and the current number, which we had, say, 3,000, has fluctuated over the years, and is probably at a slightly higher base at the moment than has been. However, it is traditionally the way in which products get developed and bought out by the large pharmaceutical and the mid-sized ones, who are essentially trading, marketing, and developing companies rather than innovative companies. Frankly, over the years, they've not been terribly effective with their own research and development. Their cost bases are rather too high. Moving on, what have we achieved? Well, this is about the last 18 months as such. I won't go back into the history. We've been a company on AIM since 2006, and we've had a few minor exits in the diagnostic area, which have allowed us to progress the current portfolio. VAL 201, our lead candidate, is in a phase 1/2 dose escalation study, and we are about 2/3 of the way through that trial. The primary centre has been at University College Hospital in London, and we have established that it is safe, well tolerated, and is working, but we need to dose at a more frequent level and go into the second part, the phase 2 part, if you like, to show that it actually has a beneficial effect at the current therapeutically relevant doses which we are testing. The primary endpoint is, of course, as always in initial trials in human beings, safety and tolerability. To date, we have seen no serious drug-related adverse events, which is very encouraging. Someone who's been around this business and done rather a lot of trials in his time. I don't think I've ever been in one where that has actually been the case, and we see that it works. We will see how well in the next part of the trial. We've also undertaken a successful and incorporated into the trial series of biomarker developments which allow us to measure how effective the drug is actually being at a relatively early stage without having to wait as it's an early stage trial for long-term survivability, which again, of course, is an extreme cost. I'm very pleased with the way this trial has gone. I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. The next product in our portfolio was actually first previewed as a concept here in Edinburgh. It's a reprofiled drug, a drug that has been around for around 25 and 30 years. It has a very well understood safety and tolerability and efficacy use in its current indication. And using some screening technology that one of our partners, now incorporated into us, developed, we have shown that it has a very unique mode of action against a particular target in various cancers, and we have now taken it to the point where a protocol has been developed. We are awaiting final approval for that protocol, and we are about to actually initiate patient recruitment, and it will be a late-stage phase 2, so slightly against what I said, but it'll be a small proof of concept trial prior to partnering with people who we are already talking to, and we hope will take it forward from us as a licensing or an acquisition later on. Behind that is, in fact, a platform technology which we started with, which is a gene silencing technology, which on the whole we have successfully developed through peer-reviewed grant applications and small amounts of cash over a period of time. We now do have a candidate that is suitable for inclusion in clinical trials, and over the next year, as there are some manufacturing issues to resolve in that it is a complex manufacturing product, we will be trying to get it forward to be ready for a real human clinical trial. It's extremely interesting, but it is still very early, that one. Right, quickly to go through the products in a little more detail and what we're using them for. We outsource all our activities. We are a small team of about 15 people on average. We have consultants who come in on extended periods and step out again. We do all our regulatory and all our lab work outside. We do have a small development team and lab team in Finland, which we use to verify the results we get and, not to put too fine a point on it, to keep our contractors honest. We're not the only people who've possibly in the past had troubles that way. We don't have them now. VAL201, we've shown very significant tumour-static and anti-tumour activity in preclinical models and in human-derived preclinical models. The study is ongoing. We are now showing good safety and tolerability at above therapeutically relevant amounts, and we are expecting to show longer-term and continuing efficacy in the later part of this year when the trial is planned to end. 401, we've shown it's very efficient, it works well, it has been in preclinical testing shown to be particularly effective against breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, which is a completely untreatable disease in most instances, non-small cell lung cancer, which is our primary indication, and also, in fact, in prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is a crowded area and it doesn't have a unique benefit there, so we have very carefully selected to go with non-small cell lung cancer, of which there is essentially no real therapy. GeneICE is this gene silencing platform we have. It's produced its first products which have got through preclinical testing, toxicological to a certain level. We need more data. In fact, working with some clients of another presenter this evening on that particular matter as we speak. There are some manufacturing issues to resolve on that. However, it's very effective in a particular set of conditions. And the first product is against the particular indication for historic reasons. It's a breast cancer gene, BCL2, and we've got very nice preclinical data on that. To support this activity, we have a platform of biomarkers and gene expression measurement technologies which are cheap, efficient, and effective that we both use in-house and we sell externally to people who require them in a non-competitive way. VAL201. It targets a particular part of the signal transduction in prostate cancer and other hormone-modulated cancers. The normal treatment for prostate cancer of this type is to put people, males of course only, on the female pill. Now, side effects of that are particularly unpleasant. Quite apart from the obvious cessation of sexual activity, you get effectively an exaggerated menopause in males, which we don't normally have. So you get osteoporosis, various neural conditions, and not feeling too good, frankly. It also doesn't last that long before the cancer cells being very clever and are being very capable of growing and growing and growing and dividing, as has already been said. And then what do? You've had all the pain and effect, and the cancer comes back. We've shown that VAL201 can replace estrogen in this long-ish period of maintenance. We also have shown that it reduces the cancer load of these subjects preclinically, and we are in the position now where we are getting to the level where we hope to see this in human subjects. We've certainly seen indications that it is behaving through the biomarker program as we would predict and expect. I must say, of all the projects I've ever taken part in, I'm quite proud of this one. It's been the one that's been most successful at this early stage and has given me a great deal of satisfaction, and I believe has a real presence in the market to come. Same compound also works in a very intractable condition found in childbearing aged females, around 10% of which suffer from this at some point, called endometriosis. Essentially, it's the lining of the womb growing outside the uterus in an incorrect pattern. It's very debilitating. It's painful for obvious reasons. It's usually leading to infertility. Its social cost is absolutely horrific. Marital breakdown, relationship, mental impairment, and economic loss runs to billions, literally. There are 2 treatments available for this. Radical surgery to remove the uterus. Great in a 25-year-old woman. She's not going to want that if she can avoid it. Or some really quite heavy hormone therapies, which again have all the side effects you might imagine. We have preclinical model work that endometriosis can be treated by this product. We are currently just recruited a medic to work with us, and we are drafting a protocol out. Initially, we expect to use it for pain relief and amelioration of symptom, not for restoration of fertility. However, it probably has an application there, but the necessity to get an enormous amount of more data before we can do that means it must be a secondary activity and a hopeful one, because that is a very interesting market, but not actually the bigger one. Pain and symptom relief is much greater here. I'll show you the graph on the left. Many people have seen it before. Basically, as my CEO always says, invest on the red line. That's what 201 does to the cellular proliferation of prostate cancer cells. The 2 other lines you see, one is 201 alike that is completely random, and a delivery vehicle alone, a control if you like. It's highly effective and it lasts for a long time. It works by having a particular concentration level, and we have seen no adverse effects of a significant nature at above therapeutic levels. It also has one other very surprising effect. This one is completely serendipitous. We had, with one of our contractors, 2 studies left, which we didn't need to do. The data set was complete, but we had paid for them. What do? Well, we changed the delivery mechanism. We knew that in the untreated animals we were seeing a lot of metastatic activity, i.e. secondary cancers, in these model mice which had been given prostate cancer, and specifically prostate cancer in their prostates. So we ran the study. full load. And on the left, you will see where they were not applied any drug at all. And the light blue shows the proportion, and it was 20 mice in each group, shows the proportion that completed the study and had metastases growing very nicely. In fact, I think it's only one animal that didn't in that group. The others died because of welfare concerns on the whole. Then there is a dose increase, and as you can see, we got a bit too generous with our dosing. We get about a 50% reduction at the end of the study when we apply these compounds to the mice. That's a very interesting study. We are looking for it in the humans, but we're not going to find it in this trial. That will have to be the next trial on. The time for follow-up is long. Where's this drug going to be useful? Well, as I said, it's quite a high-profile disease these days. Bob Monkhouse, of course, is the big famous one who had this and tragically succumbed to the secondary metastatic effects of it. Right now, you get prostate cancer, or enlarged prostate, which very frequently, and about 80% of people do end up developing prostate cancer from enlarged prostate if they live long enough. It's an old man's disease on the whole in most people. Basically, they diagnose you and they do nothing. They just watch, making sure you're okay. Then, when your PSA levels rise to a certain level and you get more discomfort, they put you on hormone deprivation treatment, i.e. the pill. And you get all the effects which people have read about and know about. If you're a very good boy, after 2 or 3 years and there's been no increase, to give you a relief from the symptoms and allow you to feel male again, they withdraw the pill. They give you 2 or 3 months, and some function returns to your normal human desires. You're given those little blue pills and told to go away and be a nice boy for as long as you can. That's up to 18 months in most people before it comes back quite aggressively, and they have to go for further treatment. Now, the trial is actually on those people. They're quite common, but not that many. We believe, and the results where we started off with people at the very end who were in metastatic progression, is that it does seem to slow up things and it's safe and tolerated. But we think if we bring right back to the watchful waiting period, which in most people is a couple of years, we think that that can be extended out to a significant amount of time. How far? We don't know. I think between 2 and 4 years is possible. It's not an expensive drug. This is not a multi-thousand production cost per subject. It's not going to be as cheap as an aspirin, but it can be used in a similar way. You can take it on a daily basis and use it to suppress. Most of the people will be on statins anyway, probably on a blood thinning or blood pressure reducing drug as well. It's that age group. Why not have this one as well? It's quite possible, and we've got some considerable interest from some of the later stage companies to take that on. However, we also know, because we've done quite a lot of preclinical work on it, that it's quite compatible with all the other things because of its unique mode of action. So if you do need to go on to something more aggressive, you can still have this, because frequently they have estrogen with the other therapy. The benefits of this, which specifically and only target Src kinase so that it stops cellular proliferation, it doesn't take away the bone turnover effects, the human sexuality effects, the respiratory effects, or the mental effects, which things that particularly close down Src kinase normally do, including the market leaders and the quite well recorded abiraterone. Right, 401. Quickly, where are we on that? It's a reformulated drug taken orally. It has a very decent side effect profile, considering how nasty it is as a disease. It's got a very specific and uniquely screened, in a mass screening exercise, mode of action. We know that this works. We've shown that it works. And it's quite compatible with other treatments going on. The trial will be for people at extreme late stage who actually have a next to zero survival rate. The graph on the right is a preclinical model, and as you can see, the red curve is untreated, the green is treated as we are going to do in the trial, but mimicked in animals, and the tumour load of the test subject is much reduced over the period of the trial. At the end of the period, we did actually withdraw, and it does get an increase again, so we know that it is compound specific. 101, I'm not going to go into great detail because it's early at this stage, but again, we have extremely interesting thing here in that it specifically targets the gene. It is not gene engineering, it just shuts down the expression of the gene that is rebellious and causing the trouble. In this case, it's a BCL2 model. We now have a compound we can put into humans. We've got to work it through the stage. This started off literally as a concept on paper about 15 years ago and was the basis of the company. Again, we have a gene screening technique which is cheap and cheerful and fits a specific space. And we're getting a certain amount of traction with quite a lot of the CROs in that area. They don't want to do what they call full qPCR, which is a complex and expensive and slowish process. And it gives numeric information that the standard gene array things we've seen on television with green and red lights doesn't give. It's a limited gene set. It's quick, it's cheap, it's efficient. I'm not going to go into the techniques. It's really quite complicated. And that slide says the same. And I'm running short on time, so I shall move through. Again, this is a biotech company. It's been shown before. We specifically sit between academia and these late pharma big bio companies, as has been explained in detail. And I don't think that's necessary. So, we use an outsourcing clinical development model. We address markets with large need and a high value. And we spend a lot of time doing due diligence to make sure that's the case before we start. We've done this on very little money indeed and intend to continue to do so. Below there is the list of where we exactly are with everything and what we are, and thank you very much for listening.
George, thank you. Any questions, anybody? Gentlemen.
Usual question, how are you going to monetize it?
Very simple, out-licensing and partnering. We are in talks. We have various discussions ongoing. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you more than that.
Why not?
I would rather the FCA. Yeah, rather the FCA didn't knock on my door tomorrow. Thank you.
Good question, though. Any more questions? Perhaps you give some timelines for 2016. You know, you've got obviously on this slide here.
Yes.
What your developments are. Where do you see this? Your phase 1, phase 2?
Phase 2 is completed because the MHRA says it must do by December the 31st this year. It will complete before then. We're in the late stages of the cohort acceleration there now. We're opening 2 new centres to do that. I wish I could name them today. Unfortunately, NHS contracts take rather longer than you would like to get returned.
That's UK.
401, we will have patients done. It's a small trial. It's a proof of concept trial. It's a 2B, which shows that not only is it efficacious, but it actually is efficacious against the specific disease, not just cancer. Anyone can cure cancer. The trouble is, the patient usually dies. And the rest is ongoing. We expect to see developments towards the end of this year, mostly in 2017 for them.
So news flow for a potential shareholder, is it more going to be weighted towards the end of this year, do you think, with the phase 2 trials?
No, I don't think so. I think there'll be significant amounts of news coming out of 401 and the progressive 201. And there will also be some news out of VAL 101. It's more research and development and therefore less easy to predict. The thing about clinical trials is the timelines are relatively well known, providing the patients turn up and get sick at the rate, sorry to say, that they normally do. You can predict fairly well how many you will get and when. And we are pretty much online on that. And over a 6-year development program, which is when we took 201 over as an idea from a couple of Italian medics, I think we've done quite well, actually.
And do you think, you mentioned earlier on about partnerships, we've heard about partnerships before from other businesses here. Are you actively looking for partnerships?
Oh yes, absolutely. We have one person who spends a good proportion of his time doing so, and 2 others who support him. And let's be honest, if you're in a biotech virtual company, you're a salesman all the time.
Yeah. So obviously that's potentially could change the timeline, to change the sort of business completely if something
It could
did come
very
along.
well do, but obviously I'm confident and hopeful, but nothing to say publicly.
Okay, that's fair enough. Any questions, anybody else? No? Thank you very much indeed.